this video we're going to explain why it is so difficult to leave a narcissistic relationship, and we're going to show you that there are factors to do with the narcissist, and there are also some factors that you are able to work on within yourself. Welcome to Feeling is Healing, where we support people who have previously felt powerless in relationships to develop self-trust in order to live happier, healthier and more fulfilling lives. If you find this video useful, please give it a thumbs up and please subscribe in order to receive future videos. And please let me know in the comments section below of any topics which you would like covered on future videos. Okay, so on to this topic. So it may seem counterintuitive. Why would it be more difficult to leave an abusive narcissistic relationship than it would be to leave one that was actually good? And there are some real psychological reasons, and if you understand those reasons, it actually makes a lot of sense, and it's quite reassuring, I think, when you understand what's going on, because you realise that it's not a weakness in you, and there's nothing that there's nothing wrong with you why you can't leave this person. There are specific reasons. So first of all, we'll start with the reasons which are being created directly by the narcissist. Number one is intermittent reinforcement, and I've already done a video on this, so I will put the link to that below so that you can watch that. But just briefly, is that because this person is sometimes nice, sometimes horrible, and you can't predict when and where and how that will happen, it's the same strategy that is used to get people to be addicted to slot machines. And so, yeah, you're chemically addicted to that person. And the real solution to that is really you have to make a clean break, but that obviously has to be really when you're ready to do so, as soon as possible, ideally. And the cycle, it just gets worse. The cycle of nice versus horrible gets worse and worse as time goes on. The cycle of time during which they're actually decent gets smaller and smaller each time. So you're better getting out of there as soon as you can. The second point is trauma bonding. So one example of this would be that they might create a problem and then they'll pose as the saviour to that same problem. And it conditions your mind to think that you actually really need that person, that you can't do without them. It's quite sinister in that way. Third reason is love bombing. So, and when you first meet the person, especially, they'll be telling you how, you know, you're the most amazing person ever, you know, they can't believe they've met someone so amazing, and that you must be soulmates, must be destiny, you know, there's never been a connection like this. And they will also mirror you, so that's another way of appearing to be your soulmate. And the fourth point is that you'll be in a state of confusion, and you'll be wanting to fix things. And how this is set up is because they were nice to begin with, and then they become less and less nice as time goes on. You become obsessed with getting them to be like the person that they were before, and because they were nice and when they're not, you think, well, what's changed? They're the same person. And so you try and get them to be like they were to begin with, and in order to do that you blame yourself for these inconsistencies. But what you actually need to realise is that the person they were presenting as to begin with was a false persona. Never existed in the first place. There is a term here which is malignant optimism. So you're trapped in this state of thinking, well, things are going to be better one day because if only they were like things were in the beginning, when actually you're not in control of that because this person was conning you from the start. Number 5 is that you actually may be quite rightly terrified of this person if you've seen the way they've treated others who haven't bowed down to them. You get the smear campaigns, which can be really vicious, horrifying. They may even try and sabotage you in some way. You know, we see all this revenge porn, that would be an example of that. Even criminal acts, destroying your property. So, you know, you might not even want to admit this on a conscious level, but the instinct there is to placate the person, because deep down you actually can sense what they're capable of. And then next point is the emotions of guilt and shame. So unbeknown to you when you first meet them, but they're already plotting what your weaknesses and vulnerabilities are. And so what use would that be to them? Well, if you find out that they've done something bad, they've got this ammunition already. As soon as you try and confront them about what they've done bad, they will be hitting right back at you with your weaknesses and vulnerabilities, so whatever they may be. So you may have a fear that you're too selfish, or that you're a bit crazy, or that you've got too much anger, anything which could be seen as a negative, basically. So the way we get over this is we work with this in coaching sessions in order to determine what your particular fears about yourself are and about the world. And so once you don't have these anymore, they can no longer use these against you. So you're strengthened against them without you really having to do anything. Within you, you're already strengthened. So the next point is, as I mentioned above, don't underestimate. If you're feeling scared of them, your intuition is likely to be telling you something, because if you were to actually leave them and you're not doing what they want, you're no longer, it's all about power and control, and you're no longer under their power and control. That will cause a narcissistic injury, and that leads to narcissistic rage. So it is good to, you don't want to sort of terrify yourself unnecessarily, but listen to what your body is telling you and prepare an exit strategy. So be prepared in advance for anything that you think they might do. Make sure you have a strategy to keep yourself safe. And then the last point is that these kind of people, they purposely never give you closure. So you're always, if you leave them, if you're away from them for 2 weeks, a month, 6 months, even a year, it's likely that there's a sense of something's unfinished. And when you realise that they have created that dynamic on purpose, that helps you to give yourself your own closure, because believe me, you're never going to get it from them. Okay, so that was all the reasons that are related to what they are doing. So we'll quickly move on now to the things that it might be showing you that you could possibly work on within yourself in order to have a better relationship with someone else in future. So you'll never be able to have a better relationship with someone who's narcissistic, who's manipulating you in that way, because that is their modus operandi. That's how they function in the world. You're never going to get them to do any different, because they exploit people and that works for them, and they're quite happy carrying on doing that. So it could be that, for example, I could be attracted to people who outwardly, very confidently display their opinions and anger and disgust and rage at other people. And that's because I was very ashamed of my own anger. It wasn't able to be expressed because I felt like I didn't have a right, to that. So that was something I had to work through. But before that, I found myself constantly really strongly attracted to people who would very confidently and outwardly display those kind of characteristics. So it may be that there's something, obviously it's not that you want to be exactly like them, but it's hinting to somewhere in your life where you could possibly have more balance, because say for example this example of anger is a protective force, and it motivates us to take action when we need to. It may be that you've been conditioned to accept breadcrumbs, and you may then have a sense of guilt or obligation if anyone's nice to you, and that can be very uncomfortable, so that can be used against you. And you may also feel like the only way you can feel like you're not evil, it's not even like a way to feel good, but a way to convince yourself it's not evil is to allow other people to be evil towards you. Because if someone's being awful towards you, you look at yourself in comparison and think, well, okay, I am a good person, okay. And there's also this fear of punishment is a very, very strong one. A lot of people have these sort of religious indoctrinations that you'll be punished, you know, that you must think best of everyone, you must look for the good in others. This phrase I see, live and let live. Well, that's no good if someone's destroying you, I'm afraid. And there's a lot of shaming around forgiveness. You know, if you're not forgiven someone, well, you're not very spiritually evolved, are you? I was being sarcastic there, you know. Forgiveness, you know, is that would be a topic for another one, but don't let anyone shame you into forgiveness. I've heard people saying before, well, you know, if you've not forgiven, but it's not forgiveness is not a black or white, you know. Different things, different reasons to have to forgive someone come up your whole life. It's not like, oh, I've mastered forgiveness. It's unique to every situation. No one has mastered forgiveness because they never know what they're going to have to forgive someone for. And yeah, there was also this thing about, well, what about the people who are worse off than you? And that's shaming as well, and shame is a real strong way to control and manipulate someone. And so you end up feeling like, well, I should be grateful again for these breadcrumbs that I'm getting because I'm sure there's someone out there worse off than me. And that really doesn't benefit anyone, because really the world is abundant, and if we're suffering, then we can't really help or, you know, serve anyone. So it really is a very twisted logic. And again, as I said above, I mean, this was really created by the fact that this person was nice to begin with and now they're not, but you end up holding on to this illusion that you can fix or save someone. And this can also stem from childhood and not accepting the reality of your childhood. So you're holding on to this fantasy that there's some way of making your parents love you the way you wanted to be loved, and it's so in order to deal with that, you know, we would work through that and come to an acceptance of the reality of how things were, rather than wanting this fantasy that's you have no control over. So just a few quick points to finish off is that there's this scarcity complex, a belief that there'll be no one else, and the real core of this is that you're forced to accept that this person conned you, they manipulated you, they used you, they never cared about you, they don't care about you now, and they never will care about you, and they're never going to change. And that is horrifying to have to come to terms with, especially as at the beginning they have portrayed, you know, this fairy tale, you know, relationship of the century. So, I mean, this video is not really about the solutions to this. I've mentioned a few things, but it really has to happen. You can't force yourself that much. You can't force anyone else to get over someone. It has to be when that person is really ready. And it's like the Matrix and taking the red pill, because once you've seen this stuff, you can't then go back. You see it, and then you see it, and you see it around here, you see it around there, you see it in other people, in other situations, and it's a hard one to accept. It's not a nice reality to have to accept, but it's something that, if you want to empower yourself and have healthy relationships, that you need to accept. And there was a point I forgot to mention as well, is related to this live and let live, is that you may have a belief that it's wrong to judge other people, when actually, I mean, I've had that, you know how a manipulator will hint at things rather than say it direct, because it's more powerful, get you more if they haven't made it blatantly obvious. They said to me, oh, so-and-so, yes, such a nice person. They were talking about a third party, such a nice person. They don't judge anyone. Basically what they're trying to say is that they're trying to tell me that I'm too judgmental, that I shouldn't be judging them, which is a lot of manipulators will, why would they say that? Because they know that they're doing things that should be, you know, if they were judged for it, they'd be judged very harshly. So it's a way of manipulating you into thinking you're the bad one. So again, you know, working on your weaknesses, what your fears about yourself may be. Okay, so yeah, the whole point of this was to realise that if you're finding it difficult to leave one of these relationships, to be kind to yourself, be compassionate to yourself, because there are real chemical and biological reasons why you're finding it difficult to leave this person. But you can work through these things, you can work out what real love, what real care is, and you end up having a very strong, very strong intuition about people, and that's a great skill for you in life in general. So I'd love to hear which of these factors we've discussed have been key factors for you, which are playing out for you possibly right now. And please also write below any topics you would like covered in future videos, and I will speak to you soon.